Hey, thanks for joining me on Tropical Weather Impact on your Thursday, September the 11th. We don't have any big problems in the tropics right now, but a couple features we are going to be watching here and a couple spots that maybe models are overdoing. I'm going to detail that. Also on this day, we were reporting from New Orleans. It is the anniversary of Hurricane Francine. It was a Category 2 that made landfall in southeast Louisiana on this day last year. And well, today is the complete opposite. We've actually got some nice weather with lower humidity and, well, hot temperatures. And so here's a basin overview of what's happening across the Atlantic. We're going to talk about what's happening down here near Central America. There is a lot more disturbed weather. We could have a storm forming in the Pacific side of things soon. On the Atlantic side, though, the Caribbean and Gulf, I don't have any imminent concerns. We're going to talk about what may be something to watch down there in the coming weeks. And then obviously this is the new feature the National Hurricane Center is going to be monitoring over the next week to week and a half or so. I mentioned this one yesterday. It's a tropical wave that's rolling off the continent of Africa. But where we stand one day after the climatological peak of hurricane season, there's just not much happening out here. We don't have any named storms, and Gabrielle, well, that may be future Gabrielle, but that's about the only feature of interest at the moment. And so our 7-day outlook with what's going on out here, you can see that, well, there's not a whole lot going on right now. This is the tropical wave that's rolling off the continent of Africa. What will be the main thing to watch out for with this tropical wave is, does it maintain its convection? Convection meaning showers and thunderstorms, or does it lose it all as it moves over what has been a stable and dry Atlantic basin? That's why so many of these tropical waves have struggled over the past couple of weeks. It's been very stable out here. And so this will be a test here on, is the Atlantic starting to transition to a more hospitable environment? And so we'll be watching the next about 5 days to see what this looks like as it travels in this zone. Again, Hurricane Center, they are giving it a chance, but they're not giving it a likely chance at the moment. That number will go up or down depending on what the trends look like with this feature. Whenever you look at our GFS and European models, though, they are starting to show at least a good idea that this probably has at least a chance to spin up. The GFS model in red and the European model in green, they're not showing much happening through at least Saturday. Fast forward into Sunday, you can see they're both sniffing something out. Here we are next Monday, way out in the middle of the Atlantic, no threat to anyone at this point, but starting to show some consolidation of a disturbance. And then further out in time, you could see next Wednesday and Thursday, about a week from now, they do show both at least something, whether it be a depression or a named storm, somewhere out in the middle of the Atlantic. You can also see gaining latitude by this point, and so that would be the good trend we want to watch with this, is that it can gain some latitude and go out to sea. Now, these are two of our deterministic models. These are model runs, not ensembles, not spaghetti plots. These are two single model runs, but what you can look at are our ensemble models, and many of them do show this curving out to sea at the end of the day. So that's what we're going to be watching with that one. Plenty of time to watch it and plenty of time to speculate, I guess, on what it may end up doing. Now, here closer to home, if you look at the GFS American model, it has been spinning up a hurricane in the Gulf for about the past week, heading into next week. And so where do we stand on that? Do we give that any credence? Well, maybe not a whole lot, and I'll tell you why. The GFS is the notorious bias model of spinning up storms, throwing them into the Gulf, and this happens oftentimes with this model. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Even if the GFS is consistent, we don't have a lot of consistency with any of our other models, and that's a huge red flag when you're forecasting. And so right now, Hurricane Center is not highlighting anything. The reason the GFS model is getting excited is because there are a lot of showers and thunderstorms down here. And whenever there's a lot of showers and thunderstorms down here, it's picking up on a few of those storms, and it's trying to grab them, throw them over warm water, and then intensify them into a named storm. So why are we not giving that much credence right now? Well, outside the GFS model, and here we are, what the GFS model is showing next Saturday, not even this Saturday, next Saturday, so about 8 to 9 days from now, is it shows a system right in here in the Gulf. The European model doesn't show anything like that. And so what you have to do is, it's not really a good idea to look at single model runs when you're trying to diagnose the probability of something like this happen. It's a better idea to look at what our ensemble models are showing, or what our models are showing with many different scenarios. And so let's start with the, I'm going to zoom in on this for you. Let's start with what the GFS American Ensemble model is showing. So what you're looking at here is the GFS model run 31 different times, tweaking a little thing here and there. And you can see there's only a couple of those GFS model runs that show something trying to get into the Gulf later next week. That's not a very clear signal, and this is classic for the GFS. It shows a couple little storms here and there. You can see there it shows a much higher chance. You can see a bunch of little different L's there. That's showing a much more likely chance of something trying to spin up on the Pacific side of the basin. Meanwhile, what's it showing with that feature coming off the East Coast? Well, a lot more model runs and scenarios coming in and maybe curving out to sea. And so that's why the Hurricane Center is highlighting that when it has a lot more model support in the GFS land. So the GFS, the one that's always a bit more excitable, does show some action out here in the Atlantic. It shows less action, but a few little areas there in the Gulf. We'll watch it, but that's not a whole lot of model support via the GFS. Now, what does the European model show? Well, when you zoom in on the European model ensemble, it shows a similar story with this feature way out in the Atlantic, showing we definitely could have a named system somewhere out here in 7 to 10 days or so. But what does it show for the Gulf? Not a whole lot at all. Now, I do think this will be the next area to watch for the Gulf region. Classic situation, we get closer to October, the Central American gyre, or a large area of showers and storms circulating across Central America, that does typically increase in the early parts of hurricane season and again in October. And so it is natural for us to be watching this general area in October. I think early on, the Pacific side of the basin is going to be more active. Now, as the atmosphere tries to transition to a more favorable environment in the Atlantic side of things, we will probably start to see models get a bit more excited with the Caribbean, the Gulf, and the open waters of the Atlantic. But where we stand right now, I don't think there's a whole lot of support for something next week in the Gulf. Even though the GFS is consistently showing it, we're not seeing a whole lot of support from any of our other features. And I do think the GFS is probably overdoing it at this point. Now, of course, check back in daily to make sure there's no changes here, but I think that's where we're going to stand with regard to something in the Gulf next week. I wouldn't put it a very likely. This is, though, looking more likely, that tropical wave rolling off the continent of Africa. Next week showing maybe a storm somewhere in the central part of the Atlantic and hopefully curving out to sea long term. And then it's even showing another tropical wave in about 7 to 10 days coming off the continent of Africa again. And so that's where we're going to put it right now with the chances of development on this in, well, at least through next week. I don't think it is very likely at all in the Gulf. Even though that GFS consistently shows it, it's really important to understand that you've got to look beyond those single model runs. You've got to look at trends, and there's really no trends showing that it's more likely here closer to home. So there we are. We're just one day past the official peak of hurricane season. We all know September as a whole is a busy month. I think October is going to be the month to watch here. Like last year, whenever we saw there was a fairly decent lull in activity in August last year, and then we got into September and especially October, things went wild. To put it in perspective, on this day last year, we were only at the F storm as well. You know, this season is running just slightly below the average, but that doesn't necessarily mean the rest of the season stays completely quiet. Last year we had Francine, and then Gordon formed about on this day last year. Now, this year we will see what the rest of September and October holds, but we did end up checking a lot of these names off between late September and through October. And so this season could still very well end up being right at average here. We could still very well have some hurricanes as we go throughout our October months here. And so let's just enjoy it while it's nice and quiet. I do think that feature out in the Atlantic is going to be the next best shot for development. Again, the Gulf chances of development next week, I wouldn't give the GFS a whole lot of credence right now with that. I think we've got a little bit of that bias working its way into the model. We'll watch it for you. We'll keep your tropical weather impacts coming daily so you can watch and see what's going on out there. These in-depth analysis, I know some people like them. I know some people don't like them. They just want a yes or no on what's going to happen. We also have our short forecast that we post here on our website on WWL Plus and on YouTube. With that being said, that's where we stand on this September 11th. Where's your tropical weather impact? I'll see you right back here tomorrow with the same update and same place, same time for your Friday. Thanks for joining me.